Hello there, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. I know I am. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Tibi from Vectorburn or Vectorburn Games on Twitch. Or for the first time ever, you can find me and build guides such as the one you're going to see right now on vectorburn.games. That is my website. If you want a nicely written guide you can follow along or refer back to it later, then that's definitely a good place to go. So, what is this video going to be about? In short, this will be my first build guide video out of hopefully many, really catered towards anybody that enjoys soloing content, and ESO has a lot of solo content to offer, as you might know, and towards anybody that really just wants to be an absolute boss and take down anything on their own, but you can also be an excellent group tank in normal or veteran dungeons or just do whatever. So, without any further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so as a new player, whether you're coming over from WoW or another game, or you just picked up the Elder Scrolls Online, you're kind of digging the game, but you're confused as to what the hell do you need to do after hitting level 50 and the coveted 160 champion points. Like, how do you get to the point where you can really enjoy the game's content, kill world bosses without having to rely on others, comfortably solo most content, and be sure that your character is capable of tanking any normal or veteran dungeons or just YOLO dolmens, and pretty much just do whatever you feel like doing. All of this on your own? Well, I mean, I got you covered. I've put together a guide that is catered towards beginner players, just like you and I. A build that has decent damage, can tank and self-sustain to the moon and back, and you don't need any serious cash to get it going. Like, my budget was 10k gold, and you will have way more than that by the time you reach CP 160, simply from like doing quests and doing maybe a couple of daily writs or something. Now, the written guide will cover every skill, passive, and beginner champion point you need for it, as well as a few extra suggestions. Now, please understand that this is not a min-max build. It won't have the absolute best recommendations for cutting-edge competitive gameplay. It's just an extremely solid build with huge soloing capabilities for new players to just pick up and enjoy anything they want in the game. Min-max builds are a dime a dozen, and you can find plenty of those on YouTube. I tried following a few of those, but none of them really made sense to me. Like, they were all foreign to me and most likely to any new player. So this is my take on a good build and what new players can understand and achieve. So let's see what we're working with here. Okay, so in this game, character performance is mainly attributed to two things. One will be your skills maxed out so you can make the most of them, and secondly, it will be the sets and the set bonuses you use. If you feel like your character is underperforming, whether that's DPS or tanking or healing or what have you, it's most likely because you do not have the set completed or you do not have the set that you need. So, speaking of sets, let's start off with the helmet. The helmet is going to be Ice Hard. This is a monster set, which is comprised of only 2 items. The monster set, the helmet adds 804 spell crit, which is super nice because we need spell crit to make this set work. And then the 2-piece set, when you deal critical damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a damage shield that absorbs 8.3k damage for 6 seconds. While the damage shield holds, you deal about 1000 frost damage to all enemies within 5 meters of you every 1 second. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds, so this is super nice. The 8.3k damage shield is really good, plus dealing almost 1000 frost damage to all enemies around you for as long as the shield holds is really great. Okay, maybe I exaggerate a bit. It's really good. Plus, while we have Leeching Vines active, this will also trigger the healing effect. We will get into skills just in a bit, but just know that any kind of damage is really good for you, especially continuous damage. so you can heal more. So these two pieces are locked in. So both of these are best in slot, and it's not that difficult to get. The helmet will drop from Veteran Direfrost Keep, and the shoulders you will get from Undaunted boxes. You open Undaunted boxes with these Undaunted keys. I think I had 12 keys, so I opened 12 boxes, and I think 4 of them were Iceheart's Pauldrons, so it's really not that difficult to get. It's a pretty common drop. Alright, moving on to our next set, and this is the meat of the entire build, will be the Leeching Plate set. So you will need to have 5 pieces of this. Now this is something like do as I say and not as I do, because I still haven't got the entire set, because here you would need Girdle of Leeching, Sabatons of Leeching, Graves of Leeching, Gauntlets of Leeching, and Cuirass of Leeching. So all these 5 pieces will need to be part of the Leeching Plate set. Now, as you can see, I do not have them just yet. This is Vanguard, and this is Frozen Watcher. But these five will all need to be part of the Leeching Plate. The benefit this set gives you, for the 2-piece set, you get max health, really good. Additional healing, then again max health. And the best part is when you take damage, you have a 20% chance to summon a cloud of leeching poison under the assailant. The cloud deals 1.3k poison damage every 1 second for 5 seconds, and it heals you for 100% of the damage caused. A cloud can be created once every 5 seconds. So this is really good. You can kind of see how all of these self-heals kind of add up, and this is why you mainly don't really need a healer. You can just heal passively a ton, so that is how you self-sustain. So again, these 2 are locked in. You will need Ice Hearts here, and then these 5 should be Leeching Plate. Now the last set we are going to use as a 5-piece bonus will be the necklace, the 2 rings, and the weapons. Now this is why I have this set completed, is because I am using the mace and the shield of leeching, so I can have the set completed, but this is not what you want, and I will show you exactly what you need. So for weapon, you will need a spinner's axe. The spinner's set is really good, especially because we are running a Magica Warden. The 2-piece set gives max Magica, then again max Magica. Then we get additional spell damage, which is great for anybody, anytime. And for the 5-piece set, we get spell penetration. So the more spell resistance you can penetrate, the more damage you do, the more you heal, yada yada yada. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. For the shield, again, Spinner's Shield, and for the jewelry, Spinner's Necklace, and 2 Spinner's Rings. Now, for these 3, so the 2 rings, the necklace, the epic one-handed weapon, and the epic shield, for all of these 5, I think I've paid around 8,000 gold, and that is really not that much. So 8,000 gold, and trust me, I am a super poor player, like 70,000 gold is nothing. Even if you just hit level 50 and you're champion point 10, 8,000 gold is super achievable and should not be an issue for anybody. And spending that 8k on 5 pieces of really good gear is totally worth it in my opinion. So that about does it for gear. Just to recap, so 2 Ice Hearts, 5 Leeching Plate, and then the rest is spinners. Alright, let's take a look at the skills. Starting off with the class skills, we go to Animal Companions. Now I have taken Feral Guardian and Screaming Cliff Racer simply because when you start your character, you don't really have any spells that you could use to kill stuff. So these 2 are the first available, yes, even the ultimate. And I've taken them, but I will respec out of these because we do not use them. Now the next spell that you really will use is Deep Fissure. Now Deep Fissure deals a ton of damage, and I do mean a ton. And very often it will also crit. It kind of looks like this. You activate it. There's like a little delay, and then bam, the bugs come out and they do just so much damage, it's ridiculous. The next one will be Fetcher Infection. This is basically a dot, no big deal. Every second cast of this ability deals 50% additional damage, And this is really good because it does last 10 seconds, and while you have your leeching vines active and your Fetcher infection, this basically causes your leeching vines to heal you. We will get to leeching vines in just a second, but just know that this is super important to keep up. Well, I would say almost all the time. It really does help with high hit point targets like bosses or mini bosses. Moving on, next is Blue Betty. This is a magica recovery spell. Call a Betty next to your side, which restores 5.4k magica to you over 27 seconds and grants you major sorcery, increasing your spell damage by 20%. Super nice. Also, when the Netch is summoned, it removes one negative effect from you. Lastly, from the Animal Companion, we have Bird of Prey. This is just a movement speed buff, 30% movement speed buff, and while you have this slotted on your bar, you gain minor berserk, increased damage by 8%, which again is good, right? Like passive 8% damage increase is always good. And then for the passives, I have maxed absolutely everything because everything is kind of beneficial to our build. Okay, now moving on to Green Balance, which is all our healing abilities. We have Leeching Vines, which is right here on my main bar, and this is something you will constantly use. So it says grow vines to embrace you or the lowest health ally in front of you for 10 seconds. The vines heal the target for a bunch of damage each time they take damage. This effect can occur once every 0.9 seconds. Also, the best part is that the vines apply minor lifesteal to enemies that damage the target for 10 seconds, healing you and your allies for 600 health every 1 second when damaging that enemy. So while you have this active, and then let's say you use Fetcher Infection, which is a dot, every time the Fetcher Infection deals damage, you also get healed. This goes the same for the Ice Heart set, which deals continuous damage, again healing you, and all the AoE, anything you do while you do damage and you have this, you will keep healing. So this is just super nice. And lastly, for the healing stuff, we also have Enchanted Growth. Now, I rarely use this, only when really just soloing some tougher bosses like world bosses. This is great for both the buff and like a burst heal. So see the large area of mushrooms in front of you. Healing you and your allies for a bunch of health. And any target healed gains minor intellect and minor endurance, increasing their magicka and stamina recovery by 10% for 20 seconds, which again is really good. So you kind of use this both for the buff and for the burst heal, but usually you won't use this because you just won't need to. As for passives, I haven't taken anything because simply having Leeching Vines just as is will be more than enough. Lastly, we have Winter's Embrace. This is where our ultimate comes from, which is Northern Storm. So twist a violent storm around you, dealing a bunch of frost damage every 1 second for 8 seconds to enemies around you, and you also reduce their movement speed. Now, this is not the main reason we are using Northern Storm. We use it because you and nearby allies gain major protection, reducing your damage taken by 30%. So this is super good both for soloing and for dungeons. If things go south, you just pop this and everybody around you, including you, will take 30% less damage. I usually use this either on really hard-hitting bosses or when I just pull a bunch of mobs and my health pool gets chipped away pretty fast. I just pop this and I'm good. Also, while slotted, your max magicka is increased by 8%, which is really good because again, we are magicka based. The next one is Ice Fortress. This just gives you physical and spell resistance for 24 seconds. You also gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by another 8%, all for 24 seconds. And this applies to anyone just near you. Like even if you're not in a group, it will still apply to them. Winter's Revenge, this is our targeted AoE. It's basically just a targeted AoE. It slows enemies. You know, you can apply chilled. It kind of looks, it kind of looks like this. Pretty cool, just a bunch of ice shards coming out of the ground, and anything that stands in it will get just debuffed, I guess, and will take continuous damage. For the passives in Winter's Embrace, I just taken Frozen Armor and Piercing Cold. You can kind of see what these say, so I'm not gonna go over everything because it's gonna be a long video. Alright, moving on to One-Handed and Shield. For the passives, I have taken everything. Everything is just maxed out. The only two spells we need from here is Pierce Armor. This is basically our main taunt. Also afflicts the enemy with Major Fracture and Major Breach, reducing their physical resistance and spell resistance by a lot for 12 seconds. Again, you will need the taunt in group play, so in dungeons, but whenever you're soloing, I just swap this for the healing mushrooms. But usually this is what my bar looks like. Now the second thing you need from here is the Absorb Magic. Bolster your defenses, absorbing 15,000 damage from the next spell projectile cast at you and heals you for 15% of your max health. This is a super good burst heal. Again, it will just apply to spell projectile, but still most mobs will have some kind of spell projectile, and this constantly comes in handy. Also, while you have a shield equipped and this ability slotted, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 8% and the cost of blocking is reduced by 8%. So again, really good thing to have. Now lastly, we will use a Destruction Staff, and the Destruction Staff will be an Ice Staff. As you can see, most of our damage is based around ice. Now you might be wondering, why are we using the Leeching Plate, which is poison? Well, until you have a lot more champion points to have all your resistances capped, and you know, that really gets into the mid-max in range, where you will most likely change the Leeching Plate to the Frozen Watchers set. This will be good, even though it is not frost damage, it's poison damage. Still, the idea here is to heal as much as possible. But other than that, we are mainly ice damage. So from here we will need our second ultimate, which is Elemental Storm. Actually, this will be the Ice Storm because we have an Ice Staff. Again, just a bunch of damage, and I kind of use this instead of the Northern Storm whenever I'm soloing. And then in group play, in dungeons, you will use Northern Storm more often because it's a good defensive ability as well, whereas Elemental Storm is pure damage. Now the last spell we're gonna take is Elemental Blockade, which is our second ground targeted AoE. As long as we use a Frost Staff, the Blockade of Frost reduces enemy movement speed and immobilizes chilled enemies. So this is really good because as far as rotations go, we use Winter's Revenge first, which chills, and then on top of that we go with the Blockade, where if enemies are already chilled, then they will also get immobilized, which is basically a stun. I mean, it's not really a stun, but they can't move, so winner chicken dinner. As for passives from the Destruction Staff, I have maxed out everything except the Ancient Knowledge, which I don't think is that much of a bonus to us because we have our Sword and Shield equipped way more often than our Frost Staff, so this doesn't make that much sense. Now, a thing I would like to mention is if you grab Trifocus and you have a Frost Staff, it says fully charged Frost Staff heavy attacks taunt the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds. So this is basically your second taunt, and it's a ranged taunt. Now, it's just nice to have, but I wouldn't really rely on this kind of taunt because the animation and the charge up time is way too long to really be able to reliably taunt something. It's nice to have, sure, especially if you're just starting on a boss and you use this to taunt it, then sure, it's fine. But if you really want to rely on ranged taunt, you would be better off going for the Undaunted Guild route and taking Inner Fire, which again is the same thing, ignites the fire of hate in your enemy's heart, well, that's dark, dealing a bunch of magic damage and taunting them to attack you for 15 seconds. Now, as for heavy armor, I went all in with all the passive from the heavy armor, and for medium and light armor, I haven't taken anything. However, For one, all of these passives from both light and medium are super good, and if you do have the skill points, then definitely take these and use 1 light, 1 medium, and 5 heavy. But the main reason I haven't taken any medium or light armor just yet is because of the Undaunted guild skill line. As you can see, I do not have the Undaunted metal skill unlocked just yet. However, if you do have this, then definitely take both light, medium, and then 5 heavy, because the Undaunted Metal passive gives you 1% max stamina, health, and magicka per type of armor. So this is just rank 1, and rank 1 would give you 3% max stamina, health, and magicka for each type of armor. So you have 1, 2, 3, that would be 3% max health, stamina, and magicka. And for rank 2 of Undaunted Metal, that goes up to 2%. So basically you would have 6% max everything if you wear 1 light, 1 medium, and then 5 heavy. But I do not have that just yet, so I went with all heavy because this gives you the most health that you can get. But as soon as I get my Undaunted skill line fully unlocked and get the Undaunted Metal, then I would definitely replace 2 pieces of armor and swap in a light and a medium, because as I said, the Undaunted Metal gives you a huge bonus. Now, one additional thing about armors is maybe the traits. So what you want to get is healthy. Again, this might be getting into the min-max part of the build. However, if you're looking for traits, then the best would be healthy, which increases max health. So the more health you have, the better. And also arcane, which increases max magicka. Both of these we really do need. We're a tank, so we need max health. And then we're a magicka tank, so we need arcane, which gives us max magicka. Okay, that about covers armors and armor types and armor passives. Now let's move on. Now lastly, for racial skills, I maxed out everything because you should max out all your racials. It doesn't really matter what race you went with, just max out everything. For the Dark Elf, it's pretty cool that you get max magic and max stamina, then you have flame resistance, immunity to burning status, and also weapon and spell damage, which is great. So that about does it for skills and items. Now, as a friendly recommendation for food buffs I could give you would be these spring-loaded infusions. I think I've bought 25 of these, so a stack of 25 for like 2,000 gold. Which is acceptable, I would say. It gives you max health, max magicka, and stamina. This is a good option for any beginner. Prices are pretty fair, I would say. If not, you could also get the ones from your daily login rewards, which are the crown fortifying meals. They do basically the same thing, and this gives 4.4k max health. And the one I'm using gives 4.1k. So it's a little bit weaker, but still really good, and I wouldn't worry about it. It's a good budget option, and you should always have a food buff active, like always. It doesn't matter if you're doing world content, if you're doing delves, especially if you're doing dungeons, be that normal or veteran, you always need a food buff. Believe me, I've gotten a lot of hate for this in the past, so make sure you have your food buff. Alright, for Munda Stones, I am using the Lord, not our Lord and Savior, but Boon the Lord, which again gives you max health. As a tank type of character, you do need max health, so this is the one for me. Now lastly, to just cover champion points, again, the website, the build website, will have all of the champion points really detailed for both 160 and 810. Let's see what I got. So I do have more points than I have allocated here, but this is exactly for 160, which will be 53, 53, and 54. So for red, I went with the Steed. 48 points in Ironclad, reduces your damage taken against direct damage attacks, and Spell Shield with 5 points. Then moving on to green, I have taken the Lover, Giggity, Arcanist, 49 points, increase your magical recovery, and then Mooncalf, 4 points, which increase your stamina recovery. And lastly, for the blue, I went with the Apprentice, 54 points, 49 points in Elemental Expert, increased Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage, and Spell Erosion, which increases your spell penetration, 5 points in here. Again, you will find detailed specifications for champion points and champion point allocations on the website. As for rotation, if you are curious, before going into a battle, we buff up, so we use our Ice Fortress and our Betty, and then switch over to Magic Absorb, and then we use this to run in, switch back to the staff, do our first AoE, our second AoE, and then the Infection, our third AoE, and it's dead. Yep. I mean, I can't really show you that much on a regular mob because it will die before I complete a full rotation. But I will leave you with footage of me just wailing on this world boss. As you can see, he has 5.3 million hit points. I mean, it does take quite a while to get him down, but it's definitely doable. Now, I'm not going to include an entire like 20-minute video of me killing slowly this this world boss because I think he will die of boredom. But the thing is that you can do it, and as you'll see, I'll be like full hit points 90% of the time, so it's really not a big deal. And for a beginner build with beginner gear, 8k spent on some items that I'm not even wearing, which again will be even more beneficial because I can do more damage, I can do more healing. It's really a fantastic build and I absolutely love it, and I couldn't recommend it more. Alright, and that concludes our very first ESO build guide. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope this build guide helps you out, get maybe a better understanding of how sets work, of how this particular warden works. I did try to make it as easy to understand and not complicated as I possibly could. In my opinion, it's a really strong build to be able to solo anything you want in the game. Of course, it's not a mid-maxed character. I mean, you won't be able to solo like trials or stuff, but for whatever you need to do in the game, this build should get you there. Now, I would really appreciate any kind of suggestions of what build guides you want to see next, maybe a different class, maybe a different approach on this warden. Anything you can just think of, just ask in the comments, or just give me some feedback about this one. I would be happy to listen and act on it in the future. With that being said, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, whatever you feel like. If you want to talk with me live, then Twitch is there. Also, you can send me a message through my website. This build guide will be super detailed, hopefully, on the website, so you can just refer to that and follow along. Also, we have a Discord, so even though I am not on Twitch constantly because I don't have that much time for Twitch, but we do have a Discord and I am on Discord all the time. Also, there are a lot of helpful people there who know much more about this game than I do, at least for now, and you can always find any kind of help you need over there. So the link is in the description. You can just join Discord and we'll be in contact. But until next time, keep owning those world bosses, keep soloing because it's fun, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.